you made the Sydney Olympics, and then I guess a cruel twist of fate meant that you couldn't actually compete at the Olympics.
Yeah, so it was the night of the opening ceremony. It was our official weigh-in. And when I was in America training there, I knew something was wrong. Like, I'd struggled to make weight. Had a little growth spurt as well, and I just knew things weren't lining up like how they should be.
Welcome to the countdown of the 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games on the Sunshine Coast. As we mark this exciting milestone, it's time to reflect on the power of sport to bring people together and create meaningful change. Over the next decade, we'll be witnessing the transformation of our region as it prepares to host some of the world's greatest athletes. But it's not just about the games themselves, it's about the opportunities and legacies that come with it. So join us as we embark on the journey and explore the impact that the 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games will have on the Sunshine Coast. This is the Podium Podcast.
Well, Fran, it's an absolute pleasure to be here on the Podium Podcast with you, and a pleasure also to be with Olympic boxer Brad Hore, a proud Sunshine Coaster. Brad, welcome to the Podium Podcast.
It's always good to be on the Sunshine Coast. It's home now and not so sunny at the moment, but it's great to be on the podcast too, so thanks for having us.
We'll talk about your career perhaps after I ask you the next question, because you are actually featured in the Paris Olympics, aren't you? You have a very special spot in the Australian, camp, if you like.
Yeah, there will be some artwork at the Australian headquarters when the teams come in and they meet the chef de missions and they go through some of the rules and things like that when you first get there, and there's a big art piece that will be on the floor. I'm not sure how big it is. It was pretty big, so it's sort of like a little yarning circle. So hopefully the athletes come in there every day and just sit around that art piece and have a yarn and updates of what sports they've got on, who they're competing against, finding more, getting to know your Olympic family really. So pretty exciting. I haven't seen it just yet. Hopefully I'll get a picture next week when the big bosses go over on the 17th. And
how special, 24 years after being an Olympian, you are featured at the Olympics in Paris as an artist.
Yeah, I know, it's pretty good. Hopefully I can put my hand up to do the next uniforms, but to see the Aboriginal culture and Torres Strait Islander culture throughout the village, it's pretty good. I've seen some of the stuff that they're doing that will be on the, in Australia's headquarters, with pictures of Uluru, the Sydney Opera House, all that. So it just makes it a bit more, like you're at home. When we were there, it's just a couple of green and gold banners and things like that. But now it's really, with the wallpaper sort of stuff. It really make it feel like you're at home, and that's what we want for our athletes. So I can't wait to see it all.
That yarning circle that over that piece of art is so important, isn't it? Like when you send your mind back to when you were an Olympian, 17 years of age, Sydney, how important would it have been for you with your heritage to be able to come to a beautiful big piece of art in a room like that and feel culturally safer? And be able to have those yarns, because like a lot of Olympians are going to go to Paris, going to be overwhelmed, distracted. It's hyper everything, but to have that space, it's pretty special.
Yeah, I think it's very important to speak up, and I think the athletes are doing a better job of that. And I think the best one who does it is Basketball Australia with Paddy Mills. He's got that great culture through the whole of basketball. When they represent or when they're a boomer, they get a Kubra hat, things like that. But I think a lot of athletes are more for it now, which is great. So I think they'll be able to sit down and have a yarn. Like you don't be scared of going up to like some of our big stars who are already gold medalists, and you're Olympic family. You're going to be Olympic family for life, and to sit there and pick their brain and calm the nerves down as well. As a 17-year-old boy going into Sydney, it was pretty scary, but it's made me a better person than I am today. Learning so much from that.
Well, talk about where you got it all started, because you started boxing early.
Yeah, started boxing early.
First 10 fights?
Yeah, started boxing at the age of 10, lost my first 10 straight. And then it sort of, it was pretty weird. I don't know how coaches do it, but they pick it. And my first coach said to me, I'll make the 2002 Commonwealth Games in Manchester at the age of 10.
Ooh.
And I was like, yeah, okay. So I don't even know what Manchester Commonwealth Games are.
Did that light the fire for you? To have an older person have so much confidence in what you're doing, to be able to look at that storyline going forward with your ability that you're showing, your talent, hard work, ability, strength, all that kind of thing, and he can see what he's looking at and he goes, right, listen, mate, this is what you're going to be, Brad. Let's go. Did that fire you up? Did that get the fire going?
So when I went from a little kid to started to go into the senior, competing as a senior, he always said losing at a young age in the schoolboys, juniors, doesn't mean anything. Wait till seniors. And when I sort of changed in the senior, things just changed. He just knew. And I remember when I qualified for Sydney, I rang him and I said, hey, just to let you know, I'm 2 years ahead of you. I just qualified for the Sydney Olympics. I still speak to him today. He's living at Evans Head, just on the other side of the border. I haven't seen him. I'd love to go visit him, and I should do that because it's not too far from here. But for someone to realise can pick your talent at the age of 10,
Wow.
it's pretty good.
That's what makes good coaches.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was NRL that your family was quite heavily involved in, wasn't it? And
the NRL. I used to love footy. I just wanted to be a footy player. My brother was, all of us played football, but at the age of 10, and when I got a little bit bigger, I was just a speed hump. Like, they used to just run over me. And the only reason why I went into boxing, and my dad said, we need to build your confidence up.
Yep.
So pick between karate, taekwondo, or boxing, and I chose boxing.
Oh, wow. And so talk us through that. You made the Sydney Olympics, and then I guess a cruel twist of fate meant that you couldn't actually compete at the Olympics.
Yeah, so it was the night of the opening ceremony. It was our official weigh-in. And we had a training camp we were in America for a little bit, and then we were in Noumea 2 weeks before flying into Sydney. And when I was in America training there, I knew something was wrong. Like, I'd struggled to make weight, had a little growth spurt as well, and I just knew things weren't lining up like how they should be. Being a 17-year-old boy as well, totally different training, being in the Aussie team, and when I got into the village, I just knew it's going to be very hard to make weight here, and I tried for a whole week, and I remember being in the village and then training on our 2 days, like light stuff, and then while everyone was, resting, because I only lived 20 minutes from the Olympic village there at home, and then I would go and train for a lot more hours, and I just couldn't lose it. I was 0.3 of a kilo overweight, and, it's
0.3 of a kilo.
It's kind of crazy in sport, isn't it? Because most sports, you're looking for a growth spurt.
Yep.
Most sports, it's just like, come on, I need to be bigger, faster, stronger. But in the nuance in boxing, that if you don't make weight, you don't box.
No, that's it.
So what was that like? You're talking about doing the extras. You must have been fretting so hard. You must have known that, your body is changing naturally as a 17-year-old, and you're just going to get on those scales and it's going to be a prayer.
Yeah.
And maybe you're not going to box. What did that do?
Oh, it just crushes you, really. I'm probably lucky there was no social media around as well. I was just talking about that before. But when I was in America, we had to be like half a kilo to a kilo overweight to jump on the plane, and I was struggling, and I knew, so I had to do some training in the morning. I was in the sauna for 2 nights, I remember, before, and wouldn't even, I was just dry as, there was no sweat, nothing. So
You did everything you could.
Everything I could. I was like, hot bath, hot everything, just boiling hot water, jump in the bathtub, just nothing would happen.
Nothing shifted.
Yep, nothing shifted. It might have shifted like 0.1, but it was... And I remember James Swan walked up to the coaches and said, look, he's not going to make it. And then, officially ruled out. And it's probably the biggest thing that, dreams shattered. But like I said, it gave me that motivation to carry on to the next Olympics, a couple of Commonwealth Games. And the person I am today is like mentally strong. And it's probably so, you got each... I was destined to go to one. So,
I remember seeing you in the AIS gym in about 2003, and you were a man on a mission to qualify for Athens after having been dealt that blow in Sydney. Was that the mindset? Did your mindset change a fair bit after having such a disappointment Because there's not many boxers that go to 2 Olympics as well.
No, there's not many, but I had a point to prove. So I had 4 years. I had people tell me I couldn't do it. I went up a weight division. There was already 2 Olympians from there, like a guy from Iran come over. We already had the Sydney Olympian who was still at 51. I used it as motivation, the best thing. And what I did for that 4 years, they talk about the 1%ers, so I'd train twice a day, and then at midnight I'd go for a 5K run, and that was my 1%er. And I just used to say, well, everyone's sleeping, I'm training, and that's what's going to get me there. And when I qualified, so all I wanted to do, we'll go back a little bit, all I wanted to do in the Commonwealth Games team was just make the side at 51. I didn't care where I placed, how I went, I just wanted to make the team. Athens Olympics was totally different. And the qualifications was such a blur. It was a blur. We had a 20-point rule where if you were 20 points ahead, they would call the fight off. I think I had 4. I never get an easy draw. I had 4 fights over in Tonga, and I beat everyone by more than 15 points. Yeah. And that was my motivation. And it was a lot of hard work. A lot of people told me I couldn't do it. My coach from Sydney, he was still the Australian head coach at Athens. He never spoke to me for 4 years. And it didn't bother me, really. I just used it as like motivation, what I was saying. And when I made weight at Athens, he come up and said, righto, we can squash everything and we speak now. But the media were the biggest one. Every story that you had, they go, oh yeah, why you failed to make weight? So I remember I was on weight the night before at Athens, and I said, when I make weight, you're not going to write any stories about what happened in Sydney because it's just been negative for 4 years. And, like I said, never get a lucky draw, but when you're in the Olympics, there's no luck of the draw. It's everyone's there for a reason, and that's to win gold. And I drew the USA straight up, and even though I lost, I think it was my best performance I've ever had. I've never had that weight lifted off me for so long when I made weight, and the best games for me, and just how everything went was, to plan. The only thing that didn't happen was my hand wasn't raised at the end of the fight, but the best thing about it was, I got to prove people wrong, and still use that as motivation today. I don't like people telling me I can't do it.
And top 16 finisher at an Olympic for an Australian boxer is a pretty good effort. Yeah,
it's good for us. Like we're a country that's pretty far away from everyone, and the Europeans, I know Cuba were really good there. I fought the Cuban who won gold like probably a month before the Olympics. I think I'm still concussed from getting hit from him. He was the hardest man I've ever fought, but that's part of the Olympics. You're not there to, you need to challenge yourself, and everyone's there to win a gold medal and be the best in the world. So
you certainly challenge yourself with your training. The difference between your training, man on a mission, between Sydney and Athens. The result in Athens, did it quieten everything down in your head about Sydney?
Yeah, everything in that way, yes, it did. Yeah. I still have I don't like flying into Sydney. So after Sydney Olympics come, I live in 20 minutes, I moved to the Sunshine Coast straight away. Right. So I don't like really going to Sydney, just bad memories, but then it's taken a while for, like, it was meant to happen, so it's like, but I don't like to, when people say, oh, we've got to go to Sydney, it's like, oh, God, I don't want to really go to Sydney, but okay, let's go. But yeah, the noise in the head, it sort of cleared up a little bit, and it just makes you mentally stronger. And
I had a lot of trouble retiring from the pool. I felt my body was not supporting me in terms of the dreams that I had to go to another Olympics. And so I was a bit bitter. I was building a lot of bitterness all the way through up until about 1998. And so I was retired 4 or 5 years before I finally relaxed. I actually had a little bit of a comeback swim, and that taught me that I was really done. And so I could just relax again. Did you ever have any of that on your shoulders after you retired?
No, well, I only retired not too long ago, actually. I know. I've had that many comebacks.
Why do you keep coming back?
Probably because people tell me I can't do things, and or too old, stuff like that. And I think it's being an athlete, like the highest level that we've all been to, I think it's just in our blood that, no, let's see, like, I even muck around, play golf on a weekend, and as soon as I get on the golf course, it's just like athlete mode straight away. It's like I just hate losing. But I don't know, like it just, I only retired a couple of years ago, and the only reason why I come back to that, because I promised my dad an Australian title as a professional, and COVID sort of wrecked that, and the opponent broke his hand. But when I was going in that training camp, it was very hard on the body, and I remember like doing the recovery, and like the recovery, like even doing recovery was hurting me, like ice baths and sitting in the sauna. Like sauna's supposed to be relaxing, but for me it's just a mental game where you got to sit in there, and I just sit there and go, why am I doing this? And then I remember it was like a week out, he broke his hand, and then I just went to my wife and said, I'm done. And
That was it for you.
I said, I said that one really hurt. I said, if that was another week or two, I don't think I would have been able to get through the whole training camp. It pushed me to the limits. The training was all different. Like, I didn't do too much sparring for head knocks or anything like that. But just the body took a toll where you could just... And I was like coming to an end where I just go, mate, I just can't wait till this fight's over. And But it finished like a week earlier, and I was like, yep, I'm done. And that was it. I've walked away from the sport, and... You sit back now and you look at all your achievements and you go, wow, I've done quite a bit in the sport, which is really good, and very proud.
You were renowned as a boxer for your footwork. So for somebody that's not in the sport of boxing, how do you practice something like your footwork? Does it a lot of mirror work? How do you... I'm just interested in the psychology behind that.
My first coach got me when I went to the boxing gym, for the first month in the boxing gym, I was only allowed to use one hand, and that was my jab hand, and move up and down the mirror, in front of the mirror. And then the next month it was two hands, and then it was three hands. And then I was allowed to hit a bag.
Oh, wow.
So I was in the mirror for 3 months before I was allowed to hit the boxing bag. So it was like skipping and then in the mirror.
Yep.
And he sort of said, this will help you. Your footwork will help you throughout your fights if you stick to the three main punches, which is jab, 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3. Straight punches and move, hit and move. And I just practice it all the time. Like footwork, I've always been light on my feet. Saved me through a lot of fights, and everything that from then, like I owe my first coach a lot for that. Yeah, he drilled that into me, and he said, this will help you. So that's how the footwork side of thing got. My sister did a lot of dancing as well, where, you'd muck around in the backyard and dance and stuff like that. But no, like, I didn't take it up or anything, but just watching her, like the footwork, the routine of it, and watching how to get out of trouble, things like that. Reading how far, taking your steps back from being in the boxing ring. I know it's about 4 steps, then you got to turn so you don't hit the ropes.
Yeah, wow.
Stuff like that.
Similar to swimming backstroke, you're looking at the lane ropes to turn. It's that whole process of and you're
drilled.
practicing it all the time, aren't you? When you're asleep, when you've got your eyes closed, you must be visualising. It's constant, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and then that's... but that's what you've got to do to get to the best that you want to be as well. You've got to... These little things that you've got to pick up, and you've got to understand it, and you've got to get it drilled into your head.
Who was your idol? Because, like, I swam up and down the pool wishing I looked like Justin Lemberg, who was the best-looking swimmer the world has ever seen, and I never got close. But I always imagined, when I was doing my technique work, that, my hands were going where Justin's was, my catch was the same and all that kind of thing. And so my timings and everything like that. Who was your idol? Who did you want to model yourself off?
Probably Costa Zoo was a big one. When I remember watching him at, I think it was late 90s at Rudy Hill RSL at the World Champs, I think, before Johnny Lewis picked him up to stay over here. I think it was either 97. I'm pretty sure it was 97. He was there, and I was watching him, and I went, "Oh, he's really good. His footwork, how calm he is, everything. The only thing that I didn't have was like his power." But in the smaller weights, we didn't have too much power anyway. But he was always good to watch. Lionel Rose was a big one as well, only because he's an Aboriginal man, and so much what he did for the community down there in Melbourne and for his people, and that's what I really wanted to do as well. But another big, no, he wasn't a boxer or anything, was Kyle Vanderkite. I remember watching a movie, not a movie, it was a TV series called, I think it was called Spirit 2000, and it was like a lead up to the Sydney Olympic Games.
Beyond 2000? Was that the one?
Oh, Beyond, yeah, that was it.
Yeah, I remember watching the same episode.
Yeah,
It was inspiring, hey? Yeah.
And I watched him and I went, oh, I want to go. And then next thing, we're on the same team. It's like, oh, dude. And I tell him all the time, I see him quite a bit, and I go, mate, like, you were my biggest role model.
Yeah, wow.
It's amazing when something drops into your consciousness like that it just inflames everything and it makes sense. And then you get to know them. For me, it was Kenrick Tucker, a cyclist from Rockhampton, because I grew up in Rocky. And Kenrick came after the 82 Commonwealth Games in Brizzy, and he had this long blonde mullet, right? And his legs are huge because he's a track cyclist, track sprinter. And he just came and just spoke really, really simply. And he goes, hey, I was once where you're sitting, kids. And, if you set your dreams high, sometimes they can come true, right? And I'll never forget it. And I saw Kenrick years later. I'm like, mate, I got to tell you, you're a major stepping stone with me beginning, going after the Olympic Games. But it's those Kyle Vanderkite videos that mean so much about opening your mind about your heritage, where you're from, your family heritage, that you can do it too. Because Rocky's a bit of a tough place, a bit tucked away from everything, had 2 Olympic pools, but what Olympians come from Rocky? So you're kind of breaking...
Duncan Armstrong.
Yeah, well, man, Glenn Houseman, all this. So, yeah, it's that kind of thing, right? And it's these videos that count at the right time, at the right place, that make you think bigger and just get you on that highway. But it's pretty sweet that you're on the same team.
Yeah, it's sweet. And then I remember watching the 96 Olympics at school. So I don't know, probably year 8 or year 9. And I'm sitting there just watching and going, oh, yeah, and this and that. Then everything sort of, when I got to year 9, year 10, everything went that fast. Like, it was, next thing, I've just qualified for Sydney. Actually, I just found my qualifying fight to make Sydney Olympic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, on video, yeah.
Wow.
So I've sat there and watched that, and it just brings you back, and all good memories and stuff like that. But the emotion of it just goes that fast. Like, seriously, it's...
Because you would have been a good student and wanted to study all the time, right?
School wasn't for me. I was waiting for lunchtime playing touch footy on the tennis courts or something like that with my mates, and I don't know what I was doing at school.
They didn't know what you're doing at school either, Brad.
That's a guy in the mirror, like, what's going on?
But, yeah. And like, from my school, like, it wasn't a very big school. I found out the other day as well, like not long ago, that there's 5 Olympians come out of that as well. So, with Brad McGee, there was a hockey player, and I think someone else just qualified not long ago. So, yeah.
Amazing.
Have you come full circle? Like Kyle Vanderkite inspired you. Have you ever met any kids that you've inspired from your old schools or your old areas or the boxing gyms that you had during your long and illustrious career? Have you ever sort of had that Kyle Vanderkite moment for other people?
Oh, I hope I have. I'm not sure if I have, but I hope I have. Or, we go out and talk to schools with the Olympic Unleashed program, and I hope that one student can just take one piece of that and turn their dreams around. I played OzTag up here in Maroochydore, not too far, and a young 14, I don't know how old I would have been, it was a while ago, so she was 14. Anyway, someone like the Queensland OzTag said, oh, Brad, can you look after this new player? She's never played before, she'd love to play. She just qualified for France.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah, for
Amazing.
Paris, and she's in the cycling team, so, Christine, I think it's Colin, maybe, or Stinger. I always known her as Stinger, and she qualified, and I wrote her a message, said, Stinger, you got it? She goes, yeah, I'm part of the team now. It's like, so that to me, like, for a 14-year-old playing OzTag, and you're there just to show her the rules of how to play OzTag, and now she's
going to the Olympics
for Paris.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So this means a lot to you, right? Yeah. Like this contribution, because when you read your record, the Uluru Run, you're into all these different programs, both for the AOC, for NIT, the Indigenous groups and stuff like that. This means a lot to you. in terms
Yeah,
of this
of course it does. I
contribution
think-
back to athletes.
Yeah, I think we've got to do that. I think no matter who you are or how bad you might have been at the games or how good you were at the game, you're a role model as soon as you represent your country. You might not want to be a role model, but you are a role model and you've got to be a leader. And like I said, if it just ticks that one person to go, wow, I can do it and dream big, I think your job's done. And hopefully I've done that. I've done that with, Christina, but like with other sports, or you don't have to be a boxer. You don't have to make the Olympics either. Like if you set your dreams out to be a doctor and now they're doctors, and that's another bonus as well. Sports can only take you so far. So I think education's a big thing, which I probably wish I stayed at school longer. But
I love that you're inspiring school kids now.
Yeah.
It's pretty
I'll
cool.
try.
It's full circle, mate.
It is. It really is. So what's sort of the next 10 years looking for you? We've got the Olympics here in 2032? It's not long away.
No, well, I hope I'm going to be part of it in some way of just helping, that you got to help that Olympic drive. We're going to have 7 sports up here on the coast, so hopefully I can help with that. Hopefully the government can build some big stadiums for us, because the Olympics before in LA,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they're going to be huge. If we don't have like a proper open ceremony stadium, that's going to be pretty bad. But just some of the stuff that they're going to do here, the big indoor basketball centre with the courts and netball courts, and what else they're going to use them for. I know a lot of teams are going to be travelling up here to acclimatise as well. We just need to have that Olympic vibe, and hopefully I can be part of that. And Brisbane's a good one. It's another home Olympics where I'll be able to watch and help out, hopefully in a different way. And we all know what that Olympic vibe is. Like, I'm already counting down the days for Paris to watch. And so with Brisbane coming, these 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds, they better start dreaming big, and hopefully we can sit back and watch them.
Your art has been hung all around the place. We started this interview with your art being in Paris. You're on the Sunshine Coast. You're a local artist on the Sunshine Coast. We better get some art and buy it off you, because if you're in Paris, you're definitely going to be in
LA, and
2032.
then absolutely.
So where
Brisbane,
can people
for sure.
find you, mate, to get hands on some art while you're still cheap?
Yeah, it's just, I got a website that people can write to. It's just bradhoreart.com.
It's going to be a lot cheaper now than it's
Yeah,
going to be in 2032.
this is very true.
It's the Picasso thing. Like, we got to get in early before everybody knows.
Mates rates.
Mates rates.
But yeah, well, hopefully I can do some artwork for the games and stuff like that, and showcase in another way where it's displayed, and people can sit back and go, yeah, that's cool, and that's probably the biggest thing. Like, I sit back, like, I still don't even call myself an artist. I'm an athlete, but people always say, oh no, you're an artist now, and it's like, man, I've done more work with, my body's banged up for like 25 years. I'm an artist.
Yeah, being an artist sounds like a lot more fun and less sore.
It's a lot easier.
Yeah.
It's just, it plays with your mind. It's sort of like when you get a moment in your head to, like, yes, I'm going to do that. So about an hour ago, I was sitting on the couch and a painting design come to my head. And so I'm probably in the shed soon to release it out of my head, like soon. And that's how the art piece sort of... Only reason why I took up art was because my dad passed away and I needed a release, and COVID hit and we went into our first lockdown, and I would not have coped. I don't like being sort of... I'll be pretty lost. I need to keep busy, and so hopefully, sit in the shed and do some more art soon.
And so this is the big release now. Like, you're moving away from your sporting background, and now the art's owning you in terms of the inspiration that comes in and the way it helps you cope.
Yeah, it helps me cope. Like, I had bad anxiety.
Yep.
I had depression as well after Sydney and the bad memories from there. But I think that I'm really settled at the moment. Like, mentally, I'm really happy. The artwork's just a nice release for me to not worry about things, and the anxiety's eased up as well. Hate crowds. hate really big crowds. Like, I've always hated crowds. But I've been able to do a lot more as well, like sort of test myself with crowds. Like, you got a little fellow, I've got to take him to parties. Like, I was down at the rollerdrome not long ago, way too many people. But because he wanted to go on the roller skating, I've had to go on there. It's like, oh, God, I don't know how I'm going to handle. But it's them little things
Stretched.
like you just, tick it off. I don't know if it's because how I've got like a release now with the artwork before I was training. Because like you're there, you're hitting the bag, that whole routine, like what you guys would have went through as well. You wake up, you eat, you sleep, you train, and then you just constantly do it. So now I've got the artwork as well.
The full circles in your story are extraordinary. Like you've got the yarning circle art piece now at the Olympic Games, releasing you from the Sydney dynamic and your whole career and stuff like that. The Sports Commission is now hanging your art at the AIS where you did so much training in that gym. And your artwork is now, joining your sweat in the carpet. I'm sure they've changed it. But joining your sweat in that gym and your beautiful release and sweat with your artwork, it seems like your art is following your career and giving that really poignant release from all the hard work and dedication and challenges, with your mental health and everything like that, is now your art is sort of like showcasing the journey in all these arenas that you were competing in.
Yeah, all different stories, and it's some of them to do with my background in the sports as well. You have a look at that art piece at the AIS. It's a lot to do with, like, the middle piece was the juniors, and then it sort of branched off to the left and the right of the women in sport and the men in sport. And the women in sport was a little bit bigger because the women at the moment, how they're going with everything is just huge for them, and it needs to be showcased. The men, was a little bit smaller, but we had probably a little bit more opportunity back then as well. But the reason is to get these younger guys out, and everyone's got their own story, and hopefully they can release that somehow. Like, I'm not saying it has to be painting or anything, but we're just talking about journals and stuff like that. But and then look back on it and go, yeah, I'm really proud of what I did back then. It's a bit strange to see my artwork at the AIS when you trained there so much. It was so cold down there. Didn't really like it down there. But the memory's always there, and that's what made you. And I'll always be proud to go down there and see it.
Wow.
What's been the reaction with your art to your family heritage and your mob? And because all that art is just so central to who and what you are as people. What is your family heritage and members of your family and members of your community think of your art? Yeah,
I've got proud cousins and relatives that are really, really proud. My mum was one of 12, and what happened then, my pop passed away when my mum was 4, so my nan had to raise everyone up by herself. So to sit back then when Nan was alive, you would sit there, and when Nan spoke, you had to really sit there and listen, because she didn't really speak that much of like the stories and things like that. So a lot of it comes out to, I ask Mum a lot of things, my brother as well, I ask a lot from him. But like now when the aunties and that speak up, we've got a pretty big family, when the aunties and that speak up, you got to sit there and listen, and you just got to be a sponge, and then I try to transfer some of them stories into the art piece as well. And it's all about learning. Like, we got NAIDOC this week as well, and that's about, like, it's not just for us to celebrate, but that's for non-Indigenous people as well to get involved and to learn more about First Nations people and all their journeys and stuff like that as well, and just learn more. Like, I still learn more today, like, and that's the main thing. It's just passing that knowledge on, and hopefully I can do that with my artwork and like being a good role model as well.
Last question as we wrap it up. The journey for the next 8 years, 2032, like, you're a proud Sunshine Coaster now. What'll it mean for you to uplift with your artwork, your sporting story, all those amazing effects you have on young people? What'll it mean to you to know a lot of athletes at our own 2032 games on your home patch, Sunshine Coast?
I think, well, the way how the Sunshine Coast sporting community really work, they're really involved. We've always had a strong rich Olympic history up here, and I've got 2 schools to go to this week as well to talk, but how cool would it be if we went out to some of these schools and all of a sudden we were working at the Brisbane 32 games, and then one of them little kids came up and said, I remember you coming to my school when I was 14 or 12, and look where I am, and we're sitting there working, and to see that, I reckon that'd be pretty cool. Do you remember when we used to get all them little letters from all the school kids, and that was our mail for the day? Imagine just something like that. I'd love to have a picture, selfie with someone just going, oh yeah, this, I remember. Oh, you probably wouldn't remember, but they would remember, and for them to go, you inspired me to make Brisbane. And I think the Sunshine Coast is a perfect spot for it. We've got that many kids that are very active, naturals with all sports. We've covered nearly everything, and I think that would be the best thing, or even an artist to see it and come up and say, your artwork inspired me to nominate for the Brisbane 32 games.
Well, Brad, that's a long journey from Sydney in 2000 when you didn't like school. And the journey you've been with the Olympic Games, it's quite a great picture, mate.
Yeah, we'll see if that happens. So we might have to just, we might have to get a job there and just see if any school kids come up and.
They're looking for volunteers, mate. Sign up.
Yeah, I'll be a volunteer. I'll be on the streets and just helping people, direct them to the games and to the big events that we're going to have up a year. I can't wait, and you know what it's like, and these Olympics come around so quick because it's been 3 years, not 4 years, so it's even better. And LA, we can't forget about LA, but Brisbane's going to be the best one after it.
Brad, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today, and we can't wait to chat to you more in the next 8 years.
No worries. Thanks for having us, guys.